All right, guys, welcome to LightWave Digest. We are here now to talk about LightWave 2026, and this is just a preview video of all the videos that LightWave Digital been sending out. So we're just going to kind of review all the cool tools that are coming. I got the crew here. We're going to have a candid, fun conversation about all these cool tools. Let's just take it away. Guess what we're starting with, too? We're starting with Modeler. What?
What? They've got
Modeler.
modeler tools. Are you crazy?
I know, right? Something.
LightWave don't do no modeler.
The gods have spoken. This is the bend tool. So what do you guys think about this bend tool? It looks like it wasn't working too good. Do you guys use the bend tool a lot, the current one?
Never.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, I use the bend tool quite often myself.
All right,
yeah, I can actually see the purpose behind this. Guidelines that you have that's presented on there. Once it's finalized and the tool is actually working as Sean wants it to be working, I can see how the guidelines can actually help make it easier for you to place your bends as you want to, because you can predict.
So it's like a start and an end, and then how the curve's going to be. I kind of like. I like the look of it. Really cool.
Yeah, because at the moment it's not very predictable. But unfortunately, the way that the bend tool works right now, it's a bit hit and miss when it comes to actually grabbing it and using it in the correct way.
Yeah. I wonder if you can have some type of snapping functions to it as well or something.
I think it will have some of those functions in there.
That's pretty neat. I mean, I get why he's got all those paths there.
It looks great. I just the first thing that comes to my mind is I want that new numeric tool. You want that precision of just being able to, no, I want it to be exactly 14.3 millimeters there and 27 millimeters, and right, that's it. And sometimes we do organic modeling, and sometimes we need that precision.
It's fairly early days right now, and that's on this bend tool. And I know Sean's going to be adding more features to it. The question is, whether he's going to have the time to sleep, because he's.
And this is the new UV tool, new UV Atlas, and I'm actually looking forward to this one because I use the current Atlas tool, the original one, quite a lot, but it doesn't have this good packing function. Or I use the
packing is a tool that we don't have in LightWave.
Not natively.
So that looks pretty banging from the start, doesn't it?
And it actually does a good job. I've never seen a packing tool like try to shove it, around the N, like the letters there, like just try to fit it.
I'm just wondering if this is something that's going to work with UDIMs or not.
UDIMs is a different end of the technology. I think it's sort of the different. UDIMs work because they can pack across multiple UDIM tiles. Then that should do. It's just whether or not he's enabled that, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be cool if he does. Because I can see.
So what you might want to do is you want to go like, how many UDIM tiles does this want to be on?
And then it would create those,
and then it would just go bang, and then you'd get 3 different squares as opposed to just one.
Yeah, and if you could do that,
if the model was rotated 45 degrees in space, what would it do?
Yeah, how good it is at working out whether something is a kind of like, well, that's squarish, so we'll make it square to the UV.
Yeah, and do you know if this tool, I'm not sure, is this tool also considered just a packing tool? Say you had something already unwrapped in a different way, like a planer or something. Will it actually act as a packing tool for a wrap that you already have? Next tool is there like another UV snake. I don't remember what the original one was called. UV Road, was it?
Road,
the original one, I think, was
UV Spider, I think, wasn't it?
Spider, that's it. Like it crawled along.
Yeah, there's been a few third-party ones. There was like UV Road, there was UV Snake, I'm sure, something like that. So there's been a few different iterations, because some, like, for example, the classic LightWave one only did a single row of polygons, whereas the idea with this, it's meant to be like, you could do any number of, n number of polygons.
Yeah,
as he's done 3. Yeah,
this would have been great for me back in the day when I did a Wizard of Oz shot for the Wizard of Oz, and I did the yellow brick road. And what I did though is I actually made the road straight, unwrapped it, and then I made it curve. I did it reverse to what this does. So it's kind of neat that this looks like it just straightens out the model too, right? It does both, which is interesting. So make it morph to straighten the mesh out and the UV. I like how it understand that the mesh is three-dimensional too, so it can do 2D or 3D. I like that a lot.
Yes.
I wonder if you spiral it, will it twist? Does it recognize a twist?
I don't see why.
Yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't either, but I don't know. Would you guys have any use cases of this tool where you think, man, I could have used this and that, or I'm looking forward to this?
It's just because it's because this is an especially tricky thing. I mean, obviously, that's a very simplified mesh. Most use cases are going to be in a very complex scenario, but it's more especially because Bend tool isn't great or wasn't great. You tended to model things in true 3D space and then just go, how am I going to unwrap this? Whereas if you've got a solid like path following UV tool, it can save you a huge amount of time.
Oh, a heck of a lot of time. That's right.
I could probably see Archviz making good use of this, actually. Archviz models, houses, etc.
Yeah, arches. You want
anything with a curve,
a brick arch.
All right, on to the next tool. We got this reduction tool, which is super fast. I've reduced models in Modeler before, and it's like, time to go to lunch, and then I'll come back later.
I've opened up models like this, and it takes 15 minutes to open the model, let alone reduce it. God.
Yeah. Obviously, this one doesn't have a UV, but would it maintain the UV? Because I think that would be a thing that I'd want to see with it if you had something that was unwrapped, that you want the UV to come along for the ride.
I know for me personally, I'm not too sure that this particular tool would be of benefit to me. And the reason for that is simply because I just create my own models. So you don't
need to reduce them.
Yeah, I don't need to reduce anything for the most part.
Do you ever do, for dynamics, that kind of need, where you need a proxy mesh?
I do, but the way I model, I start from a very low resolution model and build up to something more high. So I've got different versions. So that's how I work.
Okay.
Yeah, if you had a scan like this, as you say, if you wanted to use that with physics, then you would proxy in that mesh and then swap in the render time, the high resolution mesh. Would that be super handy?
For people, definitely.
I was just going to say, but what if you were doing your own meshes? It's like a high resolution sub D mesh. It would be really interesting to see how this reduces it and preserves the sub D flow at all, or whether it will just create garbage. Because for a triangle heavy mesh like this, it doesn't really matter. But when you get say, what I'm talking about, when you get because one of the reasons why you wouldn't use VDB to do remeshing, which is an option, is it doesn't respect, say, like funny angles or corners on a curve. It tries to quadrilateralize everything, and that can create terrible polygon flow. And so it would be really handy to have a polygon reduction tool that preserved those corners and edges. It's really hard to explain, but visually you go like, oh yeah, I see what you mean. It's one of those.
Yeah, I wonder if you gave this, say, a high. Imagine you froze your nice flow mesh, and then you just needed to reduce it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Would it maintain quads? My guess is this really is just I think he mentioned that it was just for like a proxy, or use this for the dynamics, or maybe it's a mesh that's way in the background. You don't need that type of density.
I think that's definitely something that it would be useful for those types of situations.
Level of detail proxy meshes where it goes beyond a certain point in the camera and it just pops to a lower resolution version of it.
Yeah, that would be great. In fact, actually, didn't they have that? They had a LOD swap.
It exists, but they didn't have the tools to make it. So if you had, say, like a super high resolution, it probably wouldn't work for trees anyway, because there's just like a million leaves, which is why it's, whereas something like this, yes, if this was like 20 meters away, then you could swap in a much less dense mesh, and you probably wouldn't see the difference.
No, anybody will see in your render time now. Save massively.
Exactly. Say you had you modeled a lovely building and you wanted to have a a horse on the corners, like in a Renaissance building. And so you put like 4 of those on each corner, and the poly count would start getting crazy. So you just go, well, when it's a certain distance away from the camera, use the lower resolution one. If you go right up close with the camera, use the full one.
Yeah, I think maybe they could have that for. Maybe layout could eventually just have a dynamic meshing.
Yeah, like just use this as a layout tool that just. Well, I mean, isn't that how
they actually have object?
Unreal does that, right?
Yeah, Unreal does that by dynamically creating these types of meshes.
Yes, because
LightWave kind of does have a similar sort of system called adaptive pixel subdivision.
Yeah, that's right.
But that works on sub-Ds.
Yes, but that's when it's a sub-D mesh already.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Yeah.
Whereas this is like a pre-made super high resolution image model, and you couldn't recreate the original mesh because it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
but there is a layout. There is a layout tool which allows you to actually do lodding.
Oh yeah, those tools exist.
Yeah,
so you are literally. What I'm saying is, but what would be really nice, I'm saying is if you just had a button that said "make them."
Yeah.
So okay. You've got the tool that swaps it out instantly. That already functions in layout. But if they just did this as have a layout version of the same exact tool, where you go right at 50 meters, use this at 800 meters, use this one, and it just goes builds them, and it just works out how many polygons that needs to be. And makes
that would be cool. Just dynamic meshing. Imagine having that for like an instancer. That would be sweet.
Yeah,
because instancer makes lots of clones, and it's like, oh, well, these instances here do a reduction on them based on camera distance or whatever. So then you can put a crazy amount of polygons in that scene if it had that dynamic. That'd be kind of neat. Next tool I'm looking forward to, guys. I'm sure you guys are too. If you ever did use the original one. It is Fracture 2.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Yeah, I like blowing shit up in 3D, so I think this one's gonna be fun. I don't know if you guys ever messed with the original Fracture, but did have straight points and sometimes weird the way it cut the model. So this one looks really good to me, and I hope
really solid.
I hope layout gets it too. I hope layout can have live Fracture tool as well. That'd be neat.
Well, yeah, it would be nice to be able to have the same interface in both modeler and layout.
Yeah, like that construct tool they have.
Didn't they mention that this Fracture tool is also for layout at some point? I think they mentioned.
I think they mentioned that too.
But don't take my word for it. I have to check because there have been so many videos right now, so I don't know where to check that information.
Yes, and you don't want to go, oh, was that the secret information that I wasn't supposed to say? No, I don't know.
I mean, it definitely makes sense to have in layout since you do love
it. Would make they really should be making tools that work in both, in my opinion. So for the future, that should just be yes, it's fantastic to have in modeler. Also, it'd be really good, especially because we've got dynamic mesh creation now in layout. Just to have a tool where you can go right, fracture it in layout, and animate it across time would be amazing.
Like say you brought in a building, right? And you just say, oh, I'm going to use my brush. And I'm just going to brush on where I want the fractures to happen. And you're just dialing in like these cracks and stuff just based on that brush. And then you can have something hit it and just that part breaks,
Yeah, like paint on it as a weight map. So it just dynamically goes, oh, this bit here, he wants it to be break here.
Right
and
there,
so it puts a bit more geometry there for the fracture.
Next one we got come up. This is their like asset browsing tool.
Oh yes,
and I believe this is web based, right? So you are attached to a web browser. You can get stuff and then import it directly into layout.
How he's built it all, but yes, it's all just like a little sort of so you can look at the assets in little pre-rendered and it's really cool.
Yeah.
You can see at the top there says LightWave Asset Browser, and then it's using a port. Because LightWave, this is the way Hageman wrote the live link between Houdini and LightWave, where he could move. He could move a light in Houdini, and it updated directly in layout with VPR. And he was using these COM ports which is essentially, if you think about the hub, you have three programs that comes with LightWave. You have a layout, modeler, and the hub. And this one, and the hub is essentially that sort of thing.
So is this just local, or is it also attached to a web so you can get, like, people can share assets or post assets?
I think this asset browser right here is your local one.
Local one,
I think it is, yes.
Based on the port.
Yeah.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was like, I don't know if you guys ever use Unity. I'm sure Unreal has it, where they have the storefront, right? And you can,
Oh yeah, it would be really good if you could just like go to like a LightWave asset store, browse it, and then just go. I mean, I'm sure Oliver did a tool very similar to that himself as well. When he was doing his,
I know he
where
had
you could
a
sort
nice,
of like, it would just zip it all up into a little file, and you could browse it online, and then click on it, and it would just send the zip and compress it in your temp folder.
I know he had the preset stuff for your local models, which I liked, because one thing, layout and Modeler always lacked was like a model preview, right? Unless you used some third-party tool.
The LightWave format's so like easy and open to read and write to. Sadly, we don't have hegemony, so everything like FBX and stuff, which is an awful model format, because it's like it has arbitrary access. Which way up is it? I don't know.
Sure.
It's a shame that there isn't just a really good 3D format that didn't have arbitrary access, because I think it's the devil. It sounds like a good idea, but in reality, it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
because then everybody implements it differently. Instead of having one format where, like, no, you just read and write this and then convert it on the fly to your format.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to this. I hope they eventually have a browser
really
for online
I
too.
can see how that would be really handy for people, because it's visual. We're visual artists. We want to look at a little folder and go, oh yeah, look. And what would be really nice, I don't know if he does show this, and I don't know if it's possible. So say you've got like a scene and you've got like 25 rocks, and you just go like Shift Select. 25, and then
or just drag them right into layout.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that they actually showed something else there? If you can you go back in the video?
Oh, yeah.
They showed the LightWave launcher window. It's behind that there.
Yeah, this. Where you can have different versions of it, where they've just got all of them. You just go, oh, I want that one.
Yeah,
yeah.
If you have multiple versions of the same, I think they have talked a little bit about having some form of front end for starting LightWave, and that could be it. I don't know, but I do know that they'd have talked about it at least.
I mean, that'd be kind of cool, because then you can browse there, right, and say, oh, send it to Modeler. But what I'm hoping, like, imagine you had a scene, right, and then you have this. I think he shows it here, right, and you say, I want to add all these items to this scene, and then it copies them to its directory folder that you created, right, for that specific scene. So it moves the items there, so you don't have files all over the place if you want to do it.
Well, I like this little preview where he's got like the color and the normal and the bump and the occlusion. It's got a little 4-way preview. That's quite cool.
Yeah, this thing's looks pretty in depth. All right, the next one. Now we're heading to layout. So this is kind of an interesting update. Fiber effects. So
I've not seen this one yet. This is exciting. The new fiber effects, is this? All right, so we've got a square of hair.
Yeah, that's the new lattice type tool.
Looks like some.
That's used to modify the strands. I think they're using.
Only got one square of it and not the whole asset.
It looks like a cage deformer around it. I mean, the original fiber effects had that, based on like the brush size, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a really cool interactive demo, but we're not seeing very much of, like. But how does that apply to a whole mesh? Like, imagine you're painting a cat and you've got lots of different tiles of hair, and you want to take each one and separate them out, and you want all of that tuft to go that way, that tuft to go that way. So it's hard to say. Very early days, but it looks good. I just want to see, well, how would that apply if you were painting a whole character, not just one small square of it? Fiber effects could look a little bit like kind of mouse pubes, just like chunks of just little, like random hairs. You want that like thickness of
Yeah, the
fiber
thickness
where
was
you
always
can't
a
see the
thing.
thing
Yeah.
beneath it.
Thickness,
That's
that was
really
always
good.
the lacking thing, I would say. Here's in this one, here's another fiber effects. I think they're
Oh,
just
right.
showing here
That
the
looks a lot more
examples of,
advanced, doesn't it? So
yeah, which looks prettier as far as how they
is that LightWave or
distribute
is
the
that
fibers.
it's not Octane, so they're actually showing LightWave doing some rendering. What?
Rendering fibers.
What?
So I don't remember what
But I
the
mean,
two
that looks really
differences with
nice.
these. Yeah, they have, let me see if I can fast forward. Do they have
The
more?
photos
Yeah.
look lovely, but I
So I
would
think,
really want to see how it renders and what shading they're using and more info. Really, there's not a lot on those screenshots. I mean, I
As
like the
far as
big, really thick looking fibers. That looks fantastic.
I
As
mean,
far
I
as
think
yeah,
those were comparison of the old system and the new
old,
system.
yeah,
Right.
this shots. Yeah, if
This
this
one
one,
here,
I don't
the
remember if there's a
bottom one is the new one, correct?
new one. Yeah. Well, I
So
would
which
assume
one's which?
so. Maybe the bottom's the new. I'm not sure if it would just because the clumping looks just different here. This looks more spiky and this looks more furry right at the bottom. But
Yeah.
I think the thing they fixed, which when they used to do this with fiber effects, you just had more, areas where you can see. This looks really nice in like hair should look, right? It should have that nice
Yeah.
dent
No, it looks really
look.
good. It looks nice and dense, and it
Hmm.
looks random. I think one of the things that used to annoy me a lot about old fiber effects was it was it was related to the subdivision level of the mesh that you were using. So if you
Hmm.
increase the subdivision, the fibers moved around. So it needs to not be attached to the mesh per se, but like to like
Hmm.
almost like an instance that it lives on the surface so that it doesn't get this weird effect where you change the subdivision count, which of course you do at render time, and then all the fibers change. So it's ew.
I like to see that first image with the
I mean
girl's
that's
hair is
quite
kind of a real
impressive really
case.
because we've never really been able to do that before where you've got a texture changing the density of it. I
Oh,
mean obviously it's
uh-huh.
an extreme version, but that I'm pretty sure that's never worked before.
Yeah, it worked okay. Where you use the texture image below or a weight map to color the guides.
Yeah, to actually make it like on off. Like you would usually
Hmm.
say, "Here is my like the back of your head," and then you would have to like faff on with all the guides and take out the ones in the area that you want. Which of course, well, no one you would end up with weird square edges. Whereas you want to have like a sort of a texture based guide.
Shabazi, would you use this on your characters and things like that you do?
for what I do, it's very NPR, so I don't really have much need for real photo realism for hair and or fur. I can fake it a great deal with just simple
I guess
geometry
I
and
guess so. If it's easier and it's simpler, then you might just go. Actually, this is easy enough. I'll just do it anyway.
what I would like to see on this is pretty much the promise of the speed increases for using fiber
Oh
effect.
yeah,
And
it's super
I'd
slow.
love to see what that's going to look like, as well as the stability of it.
It's definitely nice to see fiber effects getting some type of update. Like I said, stability would be the key. So hopefully that would be the major thing they work on and render speeds would be great.
I
Yeah,
think that the major thing that they need to work on is the stability and the speed of it. People will play with it and do all sorts of really cool and unusual things like the light wavers always do. The main barrier to that is if you sort of get half an hour in and it crashes and then you're like, well, never mind. I'll not do that again. If they can get it so it's really, really solid and it just doesn't crash,
Yeah.
and it's super flexible and you can use it for all sorts of weird things, then people will
Oh,
find
yeah.
all sorts of use cases for it.
And going on to the next one. This was actually a cool one. This one is the 3D tracking tool,
Oh, yeah.
which
Like,
I think
so
is
they
really
track
neat
this
that they're
and
implementing
then
tracking within layout. I'm
this
sure
is
this is
going to
probably
be
really good for the movie studios and are doing shots where you need to track stuff for sure.
so they took a
absolutely.
video footage and then mapped that into 3D space.
Actually, I think that is a Gaussian splat
Yeah,
that they're
Gaussian
using,
splat.
which that's such a real cool technology too.
Yeah,
But it's neat that they can use then the Gaussian splat and then use it to bring
Well,
in the
then you
3D
can position.
mesh.
And I think Gaussian splats can interact with lighting.
I think they can. The last video they show, I think I have that later in here as far as a video clip for Gaussian splats and how they work. And it looks like they can add models into it and light it and do additional things.
It is capable of being slightly or partially relit. And this type of thing where you can intersect geometry with it is going to be immense.
Yeah, because my guess is this is just the real location of a Gaussian splat that was captured.
Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like it. Like, so someone's taken a video footage, they've stabilized it, turned it into a 3D Gaussian splat which has a lot of data, and then you can just like 3D track where the camera's going, and then you put your, I mean, because they're starting to become really big now. Gaussian splats, it's the new thing.
They're super cool. I think it'd be kind of neat too if they can do the reverse. I don't know if they, I think they were mentioning that like you can make Gaussian splats out of your 3D stuff too, right?
You can, yes. And then so I've seen that where people have made an image viewer which just in the browser, and it's a full 3D Gaussian splat of the object, and it's real time moving around. And you can even have like feathered edges and soft, it doesn't have to be geometry. It can actually, because it's a Gaussian splat, it's not a it's like an intersection of multiple images at different planes. It can
you ever seen what they look like? They're crazy. It's just like they are little splats.
Yeah, and I just sort of like disc or
disc,
thin,
they're stretched out thin pieces. But they hold color, which is really just in the end, it is the other thing, right? So, but it will mimic reflections and all that. So it actually stores all that data. So,
well, as you see,
I wonder how the lights get multiplied to it, though, like from a 3D perspective.
I don't know. That might be really complicated. But what's really cool is that, say, you're looking at that, you could light that object with the Gaussian splat because it's fully enveloping it. It's not just a static image that's faking being in the background. It's a real 3D environment. So you can cast rays to it, presumably.
This was definitely the showstopper for me when I saw it. I've wanted this since LightWave 5, to be perfectly honest.
Version 5, dang. What did you use before for tracking? Did you actually do a lot of tracking stuff?
Back then or now?
Or just such as I wanted it such for a long time. Did you have use cases where you want like the tracking type of stuff?
Back in the olden days when I first got into the industry, you used to do grunt work, wire removal, and manual tracking of everything. And all that kind of stuff was very, very tedious stuff. So back then, this would have been a godsend. The thing I'm wondering now is, because my desire for having this now was partly based on my wanting 3D tracking in Fusion, or access to that tied in with LightWave, because I wanted LightWave and Fusion to be able to work together so that I can do my 3D tracks in Fusion and have that data transferred over to LightWave, attach my camera to it, and basically like After Effects sort of thing. However, now that we've got this built, we will be getting this built in to LightWave. I'm thinking, do I need to even have Fusion now anymore? Other than for compositing work.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of the tracking, this is the 2D tracker they have. So it's kind of neat that they got on both of them.
Yeah, well, it needs to be both, doesn't it? It needs to be video footage and, because not everybody's going to give you a Gaussian splat version of their model of it. It's super cutting edge, whereas like 2D images.
This one here is, if I understand this correctly, this particular tool, the Pixel Tracker, this one is for 2D. Something like this would be really good for, say, a truck going from left to right, or the camera moving from left to right, as opposed to depth, or the camera moving up or down or left or right, but not in and out.
This reminds me exactly of how the After Effects one looks, more or less just like this.
Why would this just be a 2D tracker? Because you are essentially solving a camera.
It is.
This is essentially a camera matching tracker for animation.
Why would you have towards the location? So this has to be in 3D.
This is not 3D spatial. This is in 2D.
2D, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But the result you will get is a 3D camera.
If you were to export this data from this footage right now and you were to use the data in there and assign on one of those nulls, say a ball or whatever, you wouldn't see, as you played it back, you would not see the ball actually getting larger as it came towards the camera, because it wouldn't be moving towards the camera. It would still be the same. It's just going to be moving left and right and up and down. It wouldn't be changing its size because there's no Z data. That's what I'm saying. On the 2D,
the camera right now is moving forward, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
However,
it looks like it is. I don't know.
Shabazi's right. It's just, I think it's just a 2D pixel tracker 2D for the footage. Like that red null at the top there is just moving up based on the pixel it's tracking. But they do have the other one is the 3D one, however, is a 3D tracker. So it looks like they have both options.
The one with the one with the Gaussian splat, that one is definitely got 3D
tracker. Yeah,
and we're tracking on that one.
Yeah, that's.
But it would be actually would have a 2D to 3D tracker without using Gaussian splats. That would make sense.
Yeah. I don't know how they would. I don't know how you would track. Would you then connect it to the camera?
Well, you have more than one point. You get as many points as you can get, and you go right. Estimate the position. I mean, that's how tracking works, isn't it?
And then scale. Well, I know, but like the 2D tracker and this one, right? It's exactly like After Effects, where you put those bounding boxes over the pixel. Because you saw in the 2D one here, he did the tracking in this corner, and when the video clip left the corner, it stopped the tracking because it doesn't have any more information beyond the video clip, right? So that just makes sense. So, Cageman, is this something that you could use in the stuff you do?
No, not really. I mean, I don't do visual effects anymore, but I did use one of the really good camera trackers that you use, like standalone software, like Buju, but it wasn't that. So that I actually, because it was a shot that I did some years ago for an independent movie, where I just needed to have like a 3D track of the actual. So then I needed to get sort of like a LightWave camera that did the same thing. So then I had to use 2D trackers.
It's been a lot over the years, hasn't there?
Yeah, they still support the LightWave scene format, so I actually could get like a LightWave camera out directly, and then it moved, and I could put like stuff in there, and it would move correctly. But I don't know if this is just 2D. I don't know exactly what I would use.
Which again, this is one of the sad parts about the fact that LightWave's kind of fallen a bit by the wayside, because it has an ideal file format for this stuff.
Yep.
It's a visual effects friendly file format. You know, you want to create a world space which is just written in plain text files. It's ideal. You know, there's no binary that you've got to decode. It's got a very simple Z depth, which is of course what all video software is dealing with. It's, you know, you can argue about which is right, X, Y, Z, but in video it's always Z is depth.
Definitely, they're trying to nab like for the movie studios and TV series and stuff like that.
But I mean, the Gaussian splats is an up and coming thing, and it's really cool at that. And actually, probably almost more cool than the fact that it's working with it. It's that it's got Gaussian splat right there in the camera. In
that's awesome.
That they're doing. That's. I mean, it's not like perfect, but my God, that's really cool.
No, I think it would render perfect though, right? If you were to use the render engine and render it,
I don't know what it's capable of. I don't know, you know, what this will do.
It's just really, really cool.
In the display, that looks amazing. I don't know if it works with VPR or if it's just an Octane thing.
This is OpenGL.
But you would want to use this in the renderer, because obviously I know Octane obviously supports Gaussian splats. I don't know if LightWave does yet.
Yeah, the render engine, if it supports it. It almost reminds me a little bit. Remember that? What was that tool that was used in the NCIS for the bones in the body? There was a plugin.
Oh, is that the thing that Elmar made?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Volumedic.
Sorry.
Volumedic. That is
Volumedic. That's right, because it had the word volume in it.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad because obviously Elmar's to do with the team a little bit.
He's part of it.
Never mind.
Yeah, that's a great plugin. Anyways,
it was a brilliant, very ahead of its time thing.
Yeah, I think, and the neat that you could. Those were actual medical scans that you can import into layout, and it would render them.
Right. Let's move on to the next bit.
This is another cool one. everyone, I'm sure you remember vRoom.
Oh yes,
No,
yes,
we
yes.
have a native version, which was
Windows 95.
yes, yeah, Windows 95.
It's probably at least 95 there. Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
No, that's really cool. I mean, it would be really nice if we could start getting more of these OSL shaders. Michael Wolf did a bunch of them. He just didn't do this one. He did like the scratch shader. I don't know if anybody used that. That was really nice. It's just basically just doing a ray projection through. It's like ray marching through the shader.
I see. And it uses that image just to shift around.
It's just got like a volumetric kind of, not volumetric. We overuse that word, but it's basically a cube mapped image. The texture obviously has to take into account how square the image is, because obviously you don't want it to stretch horizontally if you've got a wide window versus a square. But I think built-in controls for that to make sure that it tracks how square it is. But yeah, it's very, very cool and a super useful tool if you want to do like city scenes and stuff. I'm quite impressed that the thing that's the tricky part for my mind is the fact that it looks slightly cut out, but the fact that you have got objects in the space. Normally these are only very good at showing like a cubic projection. So it's still quite cool that you've got the people in there. I'm not sure how that's being handled, or if it's just like a 2D projection and it just sort of it looks good enough.
I wonder what the process is going to be. Like, you just label a polygon. I think he showed like that how the UV works, because they're just single polygons. But I'm not sure
so it's just a single polygon. So you need to make sure that you've got a color for the back projection, and obviously you need to handle the specular of the window as well. Possibly handling, again, I don't know what controls he's built in, but you might want to put like tinting on the window as well, or a thin film.
Yeah.
Some buildings do have those types of fancy coatings, but for basic, it looks really fantastic.